Ms. Jackson Lee.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
Let me thank the distinguished ranking member of the Judiciary Committee and the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. Even in this time of 2024, we need this legislation to protect now one of the most revered civil rights leaders, Dr. Martin Luther King. Yes, we need legislation that would in fact protect someone who simply wanted to provide justice to this nation. And he was the subject of COINTELPRO, a horridly distorted investigation of his family, of his belongings, of his extended family members, of his wife, who I think at the time was expecting. This legislation is important to save lives. It is important legislation to ensure that our intelligence community, our law enforcement community can do their job. But it is not legislation that should be utilized to abuse the American people. So I rise today to speak of the concerns on H.R. 7888. It is a bipartisan bill to reauthorize an essential intelligence authority, Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, and other FISA provisions before they would expire on April 19th. But in doing so, we find ourselves being subject to the eye of the knife, if you will, in penetrating the personal matters of individuals that have no desire to do harm to this country. As we know all too well, expiration of 702 authorities would deprive our federal government of the necessary insight into precisely the threats Americans expect their government to identify and counter. We understand that. As highlighted and emphasized through federal administration, if we lost 702, we lose vital protections to the United States and its allies from hostile foreign adversaries, including terrorists, proliferators, and spies, and to inform cybersecurity efforts. But we're also acutely aware that 702 is an extremely controversial, warrantless surveillance authority that must not be reauthorized without substantial reform to rein in warrantless surveillance of Americans. We simply cannot do that. Indeed, warrantless surveillance intended for non-American targets located abroad inevitably has resulted in the collection and capture of Americans' communications. And yes, the results of capturing information that safeguards the American people and provides us with a safety net that we can fight for justice, fight for civil rights, and yet be protected. It is no secret that intelligence agencies have turned Section 702 into a domestic spying tool used to perform hundreds of thousands of warrantless backdoor searches for Americans' private phone calls, emails, and text messages. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, we have got, Mr. Chair, we've got a whole new world of technology where you can probe every aspect of our life. Yes, these searches have included shocking abuses, including against civil rights leaders, protesters, members of Congress, 19,000 donors to congressional campaigns, political parties. To protect the American people, we need to maintain the vital collection authority as intended to protect our nation and national security. We must do that while at the same time strengthening its protective guardrails with the most robust set, if you will, of protection that we possibly can. That's why I've joined with several members, including Mr. Klein, to offer the Abouts Amendment, and we will offer that as one of the Judiciary 3. This amendment does something Congress should have done 7 years ago, prohibit the government from resuming abouts collection, a form of Section 702 that poses unique risks to Americans. Abouts collection is a collection of communications that are neither to nor from an approved target of surveillance. Can you imagine, under Section 702 of the FISA, but merely contain information related to the target? It is unbelievable that we would go after innocent Americans, members of Congress, in the random searching, phishing. I thank the gentleman. The random search and phishing of information that may not be relevant. In the past, Abouts collection focused on collecting communications that include a target's email address or phone address or Twitter handle or something like that. But in theory, Abouts collection could be used to collect emails that merely mention a person who is a target of Section 702 surveillance. I rise today to indicate that we cannot pass this legislation without these vital amendments, and we cannot pass this legislation without the American people believing that when they pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, that they are pledging allegiance to civil liberties, freedom, justice, and equality for all. I rise to support these amendments and, as well, a free nation with democracy and liberty for all. With that, I thank the gentleman, and I yield back.
Gentlelady.